When I came to this body, I was the most junior member of the United States Senate and the second youngest. The youngest was a senator from Delaware who had been elected just 2 years before, Joe Biden. And I think the fact that we were the two youngest, we bonded over that. And got to know his family. I knew the tragedy he had when his first wife was killed, his daughter was killed, but he'd go home every day to make sure that he could put his sons to bed, be there with them. I don't know how many times, Mr. President, we'd be standing down there in the well. He's looking at his watch. He said, "What time do you think the last vote's going to be? Because the next train to Delaware is at such a time." And he's like a marathon runner going out the door to make sure he got the train, which he did, to be home to take care of his children. And I remember how happy Marcel and I were when he met Jill. What a wonderful woman. Dr. Biden was everything you'd want in a first lady in this country. We had the privilege of traveling with both of them, seeing the love and the joy they had in each other's company, the love and the joy they've shown in their children and grandchildren, and continue to. I watched Joe Biden with a sense of dignity as he ran for election to the presidency, an office he had hoped to hold, but probably thought he never would. I know that he had wanted to run 4 years ago, but it's too close to the time of losing his son, Bo. And I'd had the privilege of knowing Bo. In fact, the last time I talked to him was on one of the battlefields in Iraq where he was serving in combat for our U.S. military. I told him at that time, you know, when I back on the plane, I'm going to call your father. I always do this if I meet a Vermonter in a war zone. I call their family and say they're doing well. And I'll call your dad and tell him. And I got on the plane, connected to the White House operator. And I remember then Vice President Biden coming on, laughing away. He said, "I know what you're going to say. I got an email from Bo." And I remember when Marcel and I stood there, tears coming down our face as we listened to President Obama and others eulogize Bo at his funeral. And we all felt as part of that family. And so the joy in the Leahy household when he was elected, not just the joy for the good of the country, but the joy of seeing a person who we know, love, and respect elected as president. And add to that the added advantage of Kamala Harris, one of our Senate colleagues here. I remember when Senator Harris came to the Senate, and I was so happy that she was going on Judiciary Committee because she'd been such a good prosecutor, such a good attorney general. She was a woman who didn't need to have much of an orientation. She knew exactly what she was doing. We've gotten to know her and her husband and admire her so. And then when she spoke, as they accepted the fact they were president and vice president-elect, when she spoke and said how proud she was to be there with President-elect Biden, but how proud she was to speak to her background, immigrant parents, coming here, the different races shown in her background, and what she's saying to, as she said, women everywhere, But I would say also what she shows to young women, those not old enough to vote, like my granddaughters, and they can look at that and say, that shows everything is open. You know, I come from a state where it's unusual to be elected the first time because, well, I'm the only Democrat ever elected to the U.S. Senate in Vermont's history, sort of the youngest also. I wasn't supposed to win. We were overwhelmingly Republican state, then we've become now one of both parties. Our last election, for example, our Republican governor this year, the last few days, our Republican governor won overwhelmingly. And Molly Gray, a young woman that started out as an intern in my office but at the University of Vermont, she won comfortably, by a comfortable margin, as a Democrat. But also our Republican governor said on election day, for the good of the country, to stop the dissension, to lower the kind of rhetoric we were hearing, he was going to vote for Joseph Biden. Now, I mention that just as a microcosm in our state. But to go back to just a purely personal thing, Marcel and I prayed for that day. We were so happy to see our friends. We were so happy to know they were there. And as one who has known Joe Biden from the day I came into the Senate, and I still remember to this day him coming over to greet me on the floor and saying, "Glad to see us young people here." I was about a year or so older than he. And we were sitting in kind of the junior row. And that friendship has lasted ever since. I know Joe Biden. I know Jill Biden. I know the United States of America. And at a time when we are so torn apart, these are two people who can bring us back together.